G'day guys, just got a song for Supercoach for you. Hopefully he's posted on YouTube channel. So, cheers. I don't want no subject. Billings is a guy that won't make no money for me. Hanging on the passenger side of the AFL sidelines, he won't make money for me.
Joe, mate, when we looked at Facebook chat yesterday, I was excited. I'm like, oh, cool, we got a few comments. And then Damien Stafford comes on here and posts that amazing song of the game. Big shout out to him. But, mate, how good was that?
That was incredible. I saw it last night and my jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe it. Yes, Jack Billings is a player who will make no money for me. He is out. He's got the sub. We couldn't believe it. And thank God for round 0 because we would have been scrambling like headless chickens. If this was round 1 and we found out half an hour before the game that Jack Billings was going to be the sub, we would have been eating shawarma. I will just say that. Thank God for round 0. Wow, that was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it saved our life in round 0, but hopefully that doesn't happen too much towards the regular season where you're a bit wishy-washy on who's actually going to be selected because the coaches don't have to decide until, an hour to half an hour, It seems like, before the game. Us super coaches, we could be stuck some weeks, Joe.
Oh, 100%. But if we're going to get crazy, awesome videos and songs like that from Damien Stafford, man, it might be very worthwhile doing it. So massive thanks to him and anyone else that has anything interesting, funny, cool to share with us. Please hit us up on the Facebook, send it through to us. And of course, with your permission, we'd be very happy to share it. We got some very talented people in the community. And I imagine a lot of us are going to be looking at these Supercoach players from last night, and there are some very, very talented players, especially from the Swans side.
Yeah, I mean, as we've kind of alluded to, we're talking Swans versus Melbourne today, and yeah, it was a really interesting game. We had kind of come into it. We were jumping on and recording a bit of Fancast at the same time when we were watching it originally, and the first quarter or so seemed really close. And then after that, I thought Melbourne had this. Melbourne did not have this game, Joe. Grundy went massive. Heeney went massive. And then Melbourne just looked deflated.
Yeah, Melbourne definitely left a lot on the scoreboard early on. They were very inaccurate. I think they had like 1 goal 6 to quarter time, which is the story of Melbourne's life. I mean, seriously, like if I had $1 for every time Melbourne shot themselves in the foot with shit kicking in front of the big sticks, I'd be retired right now at the ripe old age of 28. So Melbourne, you left yourselves, I suppose, with a lot of unrewarded work very early. It was obviously very scrappy. First official hit out in the pre-season, from coming out of pre-season on the Swans' home deck, and really from halftime, from the second half, the Swans really started to take control. I thought that the Melbourne midfield was going to be too strong, and we saw Jack Viney absolutely bulldoze his way through some contests. But outside of him, I don't think there was enough legwork, enough grunt work coming from Petrarca, from Oliver, from Salem. Definitely felt like the Swans got on top around the contest.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Oliver. I was very surprised that they played him so early, basically coming off, half a VFL game. And then I'm not even sure if he's played anything other than that. And then going straight into this game, it was pretty rushed, and you could see that sometimes. It really did feel like, cool, a lot of his balls would just get and kick or just get and throw the ball away. So he didn't get tackled as much, maybe conditioning with his body, things like that. But it definitely showed on field. Yes, it only shows here 70% disposal efficiency in 3 clangers, but looking at the game, it really felt like a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that Clary's an absolute pig and he can find the ball at will. I mean, 30 disposals in his first game back, very impressive. But at the same time, you just didn't feel that impact from him in this game. A lot of rushed disposals, couldn't really find himself in any space. The Swans played sensationally well, and I'm really happy to see this from Clary. Predicted that he was going to start slow, predicted that he's going to be dropping in a lot of money as he sort of builds into the season, starts slow, drop some cash, and then we can trade him in maybe after his bye. Could be a pretty cool time to have Clayton Oliver, but, you know, I sort of was saying in the preseason that he didn't quite look right in terms of being ready to come in and dominate. So I agree with you. I think they put him in pretty quickly. I think they were backing themselves to win the game. And they thought, you know what, with all the injuries at the Swans, this might be a good opportunity to bring him in against potentially a less than optimal midfield strength from the Swans. But I think it came back to bite them in the arse a little bit, the Demons. They just didn't match the effort and the hunger coming from the Swans.
Well, I know everyone that I was looking at was basically in the same boat as Melbourne, right? Cool, let's tip Melbourne. The Swans have got so many injuries, things like that. Someone else who looked depleted and not ready to go and dominate was Big Max Gawn. Only scored a 72, and yes, it does say 82% time on field, but it really did feel like he was spending a lot of time off the ball. Maybe they put him in a different position, because I know there was quite a few of the ruck contests where Brody Grundy was versing another ruckman. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's happened if he hasn't come into it fully fit, but they were roasting him on the TV and on the radio this morning, Joe.
They were. There's even some news like what are Melbourne going to do with him if he can't play out the whole game? I mean, for me, I don't consider it a big issue because, I mean, just last week, everyone knew that this guy was going to be a massive fat lock in terms of Supercoach performance. He's capable of going 200. He had the 37 hitouts, so he did get more hitouts than Brody Grundy. But yeah, he definitely looked slow, definitely looked tired. And I think it's because Brody Grundy really played the right game against Max Gawn. Max Gawn was being very impressive and dominant quite early in the piece. I think in the first half, Max Gawn definitely was on top compared to Brody Grundy. But I think Grundy changed the way he played. He had a sensational game. I'm not taking that away from him. He was incredible, Grundy. But I think he played it really smart when he ran straight into Gawn, didn't allow him to run and jump, took away that space. And I think he made it a physical contest that Gawn doesn't normally like to have. I think Gawn likes to use that massive reach of his to sort of reach over and get that tap out. But Grundy did a sensational job. I'm not worried about Gawn at all. 82% time on ground. I'm not entirely sure what more you want from the guy. Yeah, he's allowed to have some down games. He had the 6 clangers to his name as well. So I'm still very confident in this guy. I'm still very bullish about him. He's locked in my team. I've got no issues about that. And I definitely think this guy is captainable next week against the Bulldogs. So I have no problems with Max Gawn. Do you have any issues with him? Are you looking to fade him?
I have been potentially having a bit of a look and how do I get English out of Max Gawn, just kind of moving some money around. Maybe a Jack Billings downgrade and then a Max Gawn upgrade, which would be very cool.
Oh my God. I can't believe it. I can't believe it, BJ.
Warning signs, though. When you looked at the game, it was quite funny because I know I said this on stream before, and then I'm with you last night after the stream was, hey, I'm going to have to trade Brody Grundy. Maybe we just go Gawn in English. And this was when Grundy was on like 10 points at quarter time. And then obviously he's come out with the 140. So maybe that's the same with Max Gawn. Some of the commentators, though, Joe, they were just like, hey, Melbourne's done themselves dirty. They should have kept Grundy and all these things. I'm cool. Too bad for them.
That's what I can't believe. That's what it is that I can't believe. Just the people, and that's why, guys, I do my absolute best to keep preaching, to calm the farm, to back in your preseason research, and to not get sucked in and be overreactionary. I've been saying this every single mother flipping video. Don't do it. Because you look at you look at how wishy-washy people are, content creators and people alike. Brody Grundy last week. Everyone's concerned about Brody Grundy. We're not going to have him. Let's look for English, blah, blah, blah. This week, he's a lock. He's unbelievable. He's sensational. Where were you last week? Huh? Where were you last week when that was happening? Then we look at Max Gawn last week. He's a fat lock. You have to have him. His solo rucking is going to be the best of all time, blah, blah, blah. And now this week, what's wrong with everybody? You can't be so wishy-washy. I'm actually annoyed. I'm actually annoyed at all the people who are just riding the highs and the lows every single week and being super reactionary. Like, shut up, put up and shut up. Pick your players and then go ahead with it. Don't come back now next week and say, oh, we're concerned about Grundy again, or we're concerned about Gorn. You can't be having these polar reactions 1 week after the next when literally nothing has changed apart from just the output on the particular night. It was a tough night for him. I can forgive him, and I want everyone to jump off him. Everyone, don't pick Max Gorn. Leave him for me, okay? You're concerned about him? Act on your concern and don't pick him. Leave him be. I will gladly keep Big Maxi. I will gladly keep Brody Grundy, like I was saying last week. I wasn't thinking, oh, let's get English in for Grundy. No. Guys, just calm the farm. You're ticking me off as you go. I'm very passionate about this.
One player that we do have to be very excited about is Blake Howes. Now, I didn't know much about him at all before this game. Like, I was like, cool, who's Blake Howes? Obviously, Caleb Windsor scored this 58, and, we've been tracking him and following him and early draft pick, whatever. But Blake Howes came out of nowhere, seemingly playing the Mitch Hibberd role, which obviously he's not in the team. Howes was dominant, Joe. This guy can be on our field. Like, this is exactly why round 0 is amazing and why we're so happy to, just chuck him in there, because 91, mate, that's better than some premiums today.
100%. He did very well, and I think he ultimately capitalized and cashed in on the fact that I think they were playing a defensive forward on Jake Lever for much of the night, and so Lever almost had his hands full a little bit, and Blake Howes managed to really cash in and capitalize, get some good ball use. 74% time on ground for 82% efficiency. Not 7 marks. That's where the points were in the marking that he took. So yeah, 100%. Blake Howes, another one of the reason why we're very happy to have round 0, because he was very low ownership before the game. So thank you, round 0. Thank you, Melbourne, for showing us that Blake Howes really is a viable selection, because he didn't look that good at all in the practice game last week. So seems like he's worth a punt. He's going to have that 91 in his scoring system. It's only going to be in there for 1 week because it was the opening round. So don't expect that his price is going to skyrocket, but we've got a free look at a 91. You got to get him in.
Yeah, 100%. Is there anyone else impactful that we want to talk about from the Melbourne team? I know we've kind of shitted on Billings and things like that.
Yeah.
As not being a selection, and unfortunately Bailey Laurie's not a selection really either.
Correct. Correct.
Was Caleb Windsor in your sights, and are you going to pick him?
I was interested in Windsor. I thought in that first practice game against Richmond, he looked sensational. And I think he looked really good again on last night. He did some cool things, some nice things. Even his decision to kick in Borden into the middle of into the corridor it didn't come off, but it was the right play because they did have an outnumber in the middle. Unfortunately, he put a bit too much height on the kick. And that's the issue with Windsor. His kicking is something that he needs to work on, but he is a talent. He's really impressive. I liked what I saw from him. He's going to be a gun. But like I said, in light of the practice game last week where he kicked 2 goals and still couldn't crack 80 points, that wing role is going to be very unforgiving for him, and he's not going to be a prime user. He only had the 13 disposals this week and no marks. So Windsor, I have no doubt that he will play every week, but the thing is the scoring at that price I don't think is going to be quite worth it. And that's why whenever you're looking at a 180k rookie comparing Lazaro to Windsor, I personally prefer Lazaro because he's going to have more opportunities to be around the ball, whereas Windsor will only ever be a winger. So he's fine to select, but I think at that price, there are a lot of other better options, particularly in the midfield. I guess we can I don't think there's anyone else from Melbourne, but in the midfield, there's definitely a better selection for cheaper. And I think that's that guy, this guy.
Yeah, I think Windsor's the same for me as well. He's probably good for a 60 every week and will have spike games. Obviously, it's a bit hard when you're in the losing team, and Melbourne did get dominated at times, which is why his scoring's not great. But doesn't seem to be the big ball winner being on the wing. And in Supercoach, I think it really has to be that, especially with the abundance of rookies we've got this year. Yep. If you don't have the role, that's just it. Someone who does have the role, Joe, is Matt Roberts. I would be very happy if his DT to Supercoach ratio was swapped, but I'll take a 76 every day of the week.
100%. I actually don't mind it. That the 91 DT to 76 Supercoach, to me, that actually tells me that there is he left points out there. He's capable of scoring more. This is not like a ceiling lucky game where he fluked it. It means to me that he can score better if he cleans up his disposal a little bit. And even just saying that, though, he had 94% disposal efficiency. So that's quite good. And as you guys would see, if you haven't watched our video with Jaden Poposky, where he went through explaining all the points and how they scored, a clanger or an ineffective kick in the back line is definitely worth a lot worse compared to if you're doing it in the midfield. So that the reason why he fell short, but he also had the 8 marks. And what was really impressive and what I was afraid of was how he would fit in that Sydney back line, playing off half back when they've got others. It appears the reason why he got it was because the seagull is spreading his wings on the wing. He is no longer off half back. Lloyd has been kicked out, and looks like Matt Roberts is now playing that half back role alongside the lizard Blakey. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I guess kind of when you lose Dylan Stevens and your depth in that position might not be the best. Players like Lloyd, who were dominant in the back line, have moved around a little bit. And as you say, Jake Lloyd playing a bit off wing. It's something I didn't expect to see going into this game. But, mate, if it gives us more rookie options, if it means that Sydney have a good player who can run up and down and just, Jake Lloyd can run for days and has decent efficiency, I'm very, very happy for the change. And Sydney must be pretty happy too.
Yeah, why would you spend 622,000 on this guy when you've got the one right below him, basically point for point for 154? So,
and if you're playing Dream Team, you get an extra 30 points. So
there you go. So, so Matt Roberts, very impressive, 100%. You reckon he's a fieldable option at M8?
I don't think so. I think there's going to be other options. I mean, in my original team before potentially having to move Goulden and a few other pieces around, I had like Sanders at M8 and that was it. So I didn't have any other rookies on field. So Matt Roberts would obviously be on the bench. It just depends on what your makeup's like. But
fair enough.
I would be more confident running a Howes in the defense than I would Roberts in the midfield.
Oh, okay, fair enough. For me, I think if that role persists, I think he's definitely fieldable, especially if he can get around that 80-point plus. I think 80 points for an M8 every week, playing off halfback, and he'll get DPP. I'd be very happy with that. So does that mean that people can load up a bit in other lines and fill an extra rookie in the midfield? It will be interesting, interesting meta play. I sort of alluded to this guy, Errol Goulden, just had the 77. It just wasn't really his night at all, to be completely honest. He got some contested possessions because he was playing around the ball in the midfield, would get onto a wing, but it just felt like playing on a wing at the SCG is not conducive to scoring very well because of how shallow it is. And it's a short ground. There's not too much ability for the wingers to get involved in stoppages on a wing, especially when you've got someone as dynamic like a Grundy, who's almost like an extra midfielder. It's the players around the ball who are playing in the mids that they get the points. And if you ever get pushed out to a wing at the SCG, it spells trouble. And unfortunately, Goulden had a lot of trouble last night.
Yeah, and I think for me, I did have him in my starting team, but I've definitely faded him at the moment. It's a scoring thing, but also just like he's not going to keep his value now that the round 0 one's been here. Cool. He could come out and still score a 120 next week and a 120 again, but there's always those question marks. And, potentially you could go someone like a Heeney who went massive and scored a 144 into a Goulden in like 3 or 4 weeks if he can keep up his scoring and the other guy, drops a little bit in price. So, yeah, I've jumped off the train, unfortunately. Someone who I haven't jumped off the train, Joe, and I'm very, very happy about, as you kind of predicted, is big James Jordan. Now, his scoring in the first half wasn't great, but he definitely came home on fire. And I think he was on something like 12 points at quarter time or even, maybe, I don't think it was halftime, but definitely around there, and just went massive. You weren't the biggest James Jordan fan, but is he in your team now and you're pretty happy?
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan because I didn't want a winger, in my forward line. We can sort of see how detrimental playing on a wing can be, and very inconsistent scoring, especially for someone of his price, around over 270,000. But he then made his way into my team in light of the injuries that they've got at the Swans, and I was hoping that he would get more midfield time. And he did get some midfield time. He's never going to be a main man in that midfield rotation. He'll only have a dabble here or there in order to get involved. And I think he definitely got more involved in the second and third quarter. In those two quarters, he popped off. I think that's where he had like 60 of his 80 points were in those two second and third quarters. And that to me seems that it's a little bit of a burst, very bursty. Yeah, I get it. But if he can give us 80s every week, he'll make us his cash. And ultimately, that's what he's there for, just to make us his cash. He looked all right. It's almost like a replica of what we saw in the preseason game last week, except without all those disposals. We had 31 disposals in the last practice game. It was also really, I suppose, the conditions weren't conducive to high disposal efficiency. I think it was pretty dewy and slippery from memory as well from the game last night. So I think this guy is someone who likes to use his disposal, and he missed a couple of wide open disposals that I thought was very uncharacteristic. So I think there's upside to him as a selection. And yes, he is in my forward line.
Yeah, I think so for me too. If we can get between, let's say, a 70 to like a 90 average out of a 270k player, you're taking that every day of the week, really. And one of the things, as you did say, his disposal efficiency wasn't great, but his number of tackles and just being around the ball and being dominant is one of the reasons why his scoring is going to be a bit more consistent than some other players. Like each tackle is worth 4 points. So he already got 30 odd points out of like just tackles. He doesn't have to be the best with the ball, but hopefully he is. And we could just keep him all the way to his bye and offload to potentially a DPP player the next week. Are we going to kind of talk about the elephant in the room now? And maybe mention Blakey. I was kind of jumping to Heeney and being like, are we going to talk about Heeney? But if you want to talk about Blakey, we can do that first.
I love Nick Blakey. Like, he is my boy. The Lizard, he carried me for half a season a couple of years back, and I've never forgotten. I've never forgotten that from him. He's been wonderful, and I've always said if Jake Lloyd leaves the team, this guy is my first selected because his ball use. He loves to kick. There are games where he just simply refuses to handball. He knows he has hands, but those hands are there just to hold the ball to drop it onto his foot. He refuses to handball some games, and it's glorious. As a half-backer with a great kick-to-handball ratio, it's what you want to see. Nick Blakey, if this stays permanent and Lloyd plays a lot less off half-back and on a wing, means Blakey's going to get more kick-ins, means Blakey's going to be involved in the play more, line-breaking ability, and he definitely has seniority in the hierarchy over Matt Roberts. And this guy demands the ball. He is a demander of the football. I know they call him a lizard, but bloody hell, this guy is alpha lizard. Like, he runs past and you almost have to give him the ball because of how dynamic he is and they trust him to make decisions. So, man, I'm keen to watch Blakey again next week. If Blakey still is the man off halfback for sub 500k, I
don't know if 499 600 really counts too much as sub 500k. It's like picking Kadeem Coleman because he's under 400. Like, come on, Joe, it just doesn't work. Potentially though, like we've seen his scoring and seen his output over the last couple of years, and it has increased. Right, it's always been positional, but it has increased. I don't know if he's going to get a 117 every time, but he was taking kickouts. He looked really good running up and down and had a good meters gain. So in Supercoach, it's really iffy. I just don't think you can pick him, but it's going to be fun to watch.
I want to run the run. I want to look at DFS almost and see what he scores when Lloyd isn't in the picture. I might post it in the comments down below, guys, after this video comes up. I'm going to run the numbers, and I'll let you know in the comments just how big of a difference it is with and without Jake Lloyd. So
Yeah.
we'll move on from him, and I'll let you know in the comments. So make sure you look in the comments below after this video. You want to go straight to Heeney, or you want to skip Grundy?
I mean, we can talk about both, but let's talk about Grundy, because Heeney is going to be the most controversial, and it's going to be, do we pick Heeney or not pick Heeney? So Brody Grundy, start us off, Joe. Kind of a little bit older, new team, gave away more free kicks than he got, but he did all right. I was very happy watching him.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you be happy watching him, especially after half time? It almost seemed like he copped a rocket, like, oi, what are you doing? You know how this guy plays, and you have to be reminded of how poorly Melbourne treated him in the back half of the year for him to come out and then dominate. And dominate he did. He had a wonderful game. Wonderful one. This guy was best on ground. He was. Absolute superstar. Loved his performance. I always knew he had it in him. For me, the question was always, is he going to ruck? Is he going to share the ruck? And then I saw the comments from Longmire that he's going to get bulk minutes in the ruck, and other players are going to play forward. There was no Peanut Laddams named in this game as well. And all this just screamed, this is prime Grundy coming back, guys. We're going to eat good. And all you numpties out there who've tried to fade him last week and try and go to English, don't you worry. I've seen all of your videos. Don't you worry. And I've made a mental note in my head that you're a flip-flopper. So Brody Grundy, never had any doubt in my mind. This guy is an absolute superstar, and he's an absolute lock in everybody's team.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a lock for me. I said at the start of the video, I did have a few worries kind of when he came in and he scored, 15 at quarter time, but stuck true. That's it. This is why we got round 0, so we can see half the teams play and, not go through the pain of having a ruckman score terribly. So very, very happy there. And looks to be increasing in price, which is what we kind of wanted. And because a lot of us didn't have Grundy as being a keeper for the whole year. If he keeps like this, he might just be.
Oh, for sure. 100%. He'll definitely, if he gives us prime Grundy numbers like we know that he can. I mean, even last year when he was solo rucking for Melbourne, he went 120 plus as an average in those games without Grundy. So we know, we've seen it just as recently as last year. When this guy is alone, he still has it. He's not meant to share. He is an alpha. And that was a question that all of us had when he moved to Melbourne. Like, how the hell are these guys going to coexist? They're both number 1 rucks. And we can see that Sydney, they're going to give him the role that he needs. And speaking of the role that he needs...
And Laddams didn't play either, which was very, very interesting compared to the first game.
Yep. Now then, in the words of from Blackadder, if you guys have seen now then Isaac Heeney, holy moly.
Yeah, there's not much to say, but a 144 plus is very, very exciting for us in Supercoach, especially for a guy that is sub 500k, Joe, and more appropriately sub 500k, not by like $10. So yeah, he's made his way into my team. He got a lot of CBAs and just looked very, very good. I think with Parker, with Adams, and a few of these other guys like Mills being out, a lot of it does fall to the more senior players in the team to start carrying. And that's Heeney. Maybe it's the year finally that we see a breakout, but at the very least, if he doesn't break out and we can keep his scoring the whole year, hopefully we can ride him until like their buy round and then reassess, potentially get, with $10 in your bank, you can grab Heeney to like what was 650k premium that's dropped in price. Now,
we mentioned this resource in our video where we gave our secrets in terms of what we do when we do our research. I'm going to refer to one of them right here. This is a very, very underrated and dare I say, underutilized website that many people out there do not know of. Now, we mentioned it in our video before, but I think this is now another perfect time to show you guys just how good it is. It tells you it gives you the CBAs as well. In addition to all of these statistics, whether it be Supercoach Fantasy, time on ground, all that stuff, it also tells you the percentage of the CBAs. Heeney was in 58% of the
Yeah.
CBA. So
That's
he
filthy
was
what he did.
Yep, second to Chad. And roughly the same thing with
What a
Errol.
chat.
What a Chad. I know. I can't call him Warner. When you got a first name of Chad, you have to call him Chad. Like, come on, bro. So
Yeah.
Isaac Heeney, 58% of the CBA's 13 clearances, if you don't mind. He looked sensational. We've heard this. I don't know how many years we've heard this about Isaac Heeney, but yeah, he's going to play on the ball. He's going to get increased midfield minutes. We've heard it so many times. And every
preseason it comes up.
Every preseason, we always get let down. We dream of Heeney. I know Paul George. He loves this guy to bits. I was very happy for him. That was a very funny introduction to that video. I love it. On you, George. Hopefully, he translates into a very successful pick for you. I know many people now are going to be very interested in selecting him with this 144 in his cycle. And I might be one of them. I don't like to be sucked in. I do like to be not reactionary, as I say. He was never in my team through this entire preseason, but neither was Fisher until he showed me that he has the role. Now, Heeney might have the role this week. Does he have the role next week? Who knows? I mean, even Longmire said that he doesn't know how long that he will persist in this role, given how classy he is and how impactful he is in front of the big sticks. You know, he's a great target in the forward line. So does this role persist? Who knows? But he has a very favorable opening to the season. He's got, I know he has West Coast in round 4. He's got Richmond in round 3, Essendon in round 2. Like these are teams that concede a lot of points to midfielders.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got the bye in round 5. So, but he could go big in those 3 weeks before the bye. I know he's got Collingwood next week, which could be a little bit tougher of a matchup. But after that, Essendon, Richmond, West Coast, he could go bananas.
Yeah. They'll
and
beat
that's
up
a lot of points.
Everybody.
So I don't know. I think you can't fade him at this point, almost, dare I say. I know. Now, do you consider him to be a keeper for the whole year, or do you consider him like a mid-pricer that you're looking to cash in on him and then sort of flip him to someone else afterwards? I think that's something that, we've been burnt many times before with this guy. Mm-hmm. And when I say we've been burnt many times before, I guess I can sort of show you. There was this tweet I saw by the 1%ers on Twitter, and they've sort of outlined what this guy has been like in the opening round of a season compared to the following week, what happens. So since 2020, in round 1, Heeney has averaged 125, but in the week after, he goes 140. Since 2020, he's averaged 85. So that means that, he went over 125, he went 140 plus, he could go 85 next week, and all of a sudden, all these people who started him might be like, oh no, this could be not exactly what you're hoping to see from him. But at the same time, I think in the long run, for these first 5 weeks up until his bye, I think his run is so favorable. Plus, he has this big score in his system. I think it's worth the risk. And if he loses that role after the bye, he would have hopefully, I think, made you enough money with a low enough break even that you can then flip him to another Uber Premium in another line, swing someone to the forward line, for example. Maybe you've got like a Wilson on your bench in your midfield, and then you can trade in an Uber Premium after his bye at around that point. So I'm actually warming up to the Isaac Heeney selection a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I am as well. And you kind of took the words out of my mouth with saying, cool, is he someone we keep for the whole year? Or is he someone that we just keep for the first few rounds and we can reassess after? There's going to be a few players in round 0 that we're going to see over the next couple of weeks who are going to give us that question. Isaac Heeney at least has been around the mark. If we get someone like this who maybe is like a rookie, or maybe he's like a mid-price, or someone like Adam Sard who comes out of nowhere and dominates today, I don't know if he can be as good of a selection for us in the back line as Heeney would be in the forward line, because the forward line's got no real premiums in there anyway. There's question marks on Flanders and a few other players. So lock in Heeney, say, hey, at the very least, round 5, round 6, cool, he becomes a gun from the midfield and just rinse and repeat. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm picking him so far.
Let us know, guys, in the comments down below. What do you reckon? Do you dream of Heeney? Has he convinced you? Are you jumping on board? What were your thoughts on the game? Congratulations to the Swans. I definitely didn't think that they had it in them. I tipped Melbourne by 8 points. So congrats to the guys in the comments in the live stream as well who tipped the Swans. That was very impressive. Good call by you guys. I thought Melbourne had a point to prove, especially given all of what's happened in the off season. Brayshaw, they had that very. Look, it was nice. I think it came from a good place. How they were touching the helmet on the way out in honor of Brayshaw, but I thought it was just a little bit cringy, and I thought it was very disappointing that they didn't actually come out with enough gusto and win the game for him, despite them making such a big thing about it before the game. So for me, I'm a bit disappointed in Melbourne. I think they're definitely going to miss the top 4, and it was a very promising performance by the Swans. So well done to the Swans, mate.
Yeah, I think definitely kind of those kind of actions can, like, not muddy the waters, but definitely affect you emotionally. And maybe some of that kind of came into it first game without him. Obviously, Max and a few of the other guys might have done like a pre-game warm-up or pre-game, like, spur up the players kind of thing, which could have affected things as well. But we only care about Supercoach, all that emotional stuff, chuck in the bin. If you scored big, you're in my team. And, we saw that today. So here's to the next game, Joe.
Yes, if you want to score big, guys, please make sure you like this video, hit the subscription button if you're new, and hit that notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the videos that we are pumping out during this entire season, as well as joining us in the live streams, whether it be Monday night at 7:30 or on Thursday for the drive home at 5:30.
Yep. Guys, the footing tipping competition, I think, is closed now because round 0 started, but you still got a couple of days that you can jump on with our league and obviously throughout the season. So all the information for that will be in the link below.
Yeah, got some great prizes to be won, like we did last year. A jersey for coming first, 2 general admission tickets for the highest individual score for the entire year, and also a $20 AFL store voucher for our lottery prize. So even if you're no good, even if you make a shit, but if you have good luck, you could win yourself $20.
Mate, good luck always helps everyone. Guys, we're going to be doing the other 4 games or other 3 games, so stay tuned for those, because here at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work, so you guys don't have to. Bye for now.